Grab your color commentary announcers, Wargamers. Today we're doing things a little bit different. For the Battle of Lake Sambee, instead of doing a full-on live play where we turn the camera on and Mr. Wargaming just walks through every single dice roll, we're going to set up the forces, set up the terrain, and then we're going to kind of blast through the actual play in about 20 minutes. It's an hour of game time, and it's a whole lot of hemming and hawing because, quite frankly, Rod Humble's 2x2 Napoleonics is not my strong point. Still kind of feeling my way through the rules and the period itself. I'm new to Napoleonics, and this game has a completely different structure than anything I'm used to. The mistakes that I made, I'm glad to have made. I am up to the challenge, and I am looking forward to conquering this mountain. We're going to get there. But it's going to take more research, and it's going to take more effort on my part. Maybe you see where my assumptions about how warfare works are wrong. Maybe you can help me out with that. Do so right down there in the comments. In the meantime, let's take a look at the battlefield. Here we're looking at a bird's eye view. It's going to be a fairly static shot for this video. The armies are going to be sweeping around, and there's stuff going on all sides of the battle. So get used to seeing this. But we need to talk about the terrain a little bit. First is Lake Sambee here, which I've called out. Plays a fairly critical role. Its central location drives a lot of the action. You can shoot across it. You can see across it, but you can't move across it. It's about 300 yards across, 3 inches on the tabletop. Then you have a couple of, one large farm up here on this side of the battlefield, which is a built-up area, very defensible. You've got 2 forests on the top side of the map, which I should point out, I've actually inverted it. The top side of this map is south, the bottom is north. The Albans are on the left-hand side. They're attacking from east to west. The Tenebrans are on the right-hand side. They are defending from west to east. As I said, these forests, now in 2x2 Napoleonics, there's no distinction between light and heavy. For the record, our terrain came up heavy on the top, light in the south. Then you've got the hill, which plays a critical role in today's battle, largely because of these 3 swamps. And we'll get to the swamps in a minute. Because as the game starts, neither side has scouted out exactly what those swamps mean for the battle. And one die roll is going to make a huge difference in that. First, let's take a look at the 2 different sides. So the Albans are attacking across a fairly broad front to start out. They've got artillery and a unit of regular infantry there. They've got 2 grenadiers, and then they've got a couple of cannons defended by 1 regular infantry. The red dot over there is a reinforcement point, and then their second reinforcement point is over here. Twice per turn, you roll a d6. On a 3-up, reinforcements can come from here, and if you try to bring them on from here, you need a 4-up. And that's what these note cards are over here. You need to designate the order that your reinforcements are coming on before the battle. So the Albans are looking to bring on a headquarters unit, and then 5 infantry, and finally 4 more cannons. Note the blue cannons. Yeah, I had a bit of an issue with this one. These flankers that are coming in from the Alban left, we're going to be bringing in a grenadier, and then another cannon, 2 more grenadiers, 2 light cavalry, and then 2 normal infantry. I thought the Albans here looked a little light on cavalry. They are. They've only got 3 light cavalry units coming at them. 8 cannons, 3 cavalry, kind of an odd mix, but the campaign dictated that, so that's where we're at. They're going to have to choose whether to come on the road or here on the flank from turn to turn. Now let's turn the camera around, and we're going to look at the Tenebrans from the Alban perspective. The Tenebrans have a very secure position. The only way to get at them, maybe, is over this hill. So they've got some light infantry that can move into this heavy woods. They've got 3 infantry, 2 artillery, and a headquarters in the back. We don't know what's going to happen with this swampy area. It's a marsh. The 2x2 Napoleonics don't have any rules for this, but the campaign dictated it's there. So right now it's up in the air. We'll circle back around to that, and on the first turn we're going to find out what game effect they'll have. In the meantime, we should look at the reinforcements for the Tenebrans. Now they've got one in the rear, and they've got one over here on the left. We're going to look at the one on the left flank first. As you can see, they're a little further forward than their counterparts, and it's mostly going to be grenadiers, 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 and then we've got some regular infantry, a light infantry, and then 2 units of light cavalry and 1 more infantry. Looking to the reinforcements that are coming up from, I guess it would be the camp. And what we find are a headquarters coming on first, and they'll reinforce from this point. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 regular infantry, 4 regular infantry, 2 units of cavalry, and then 1 more infantry. So that's where things stand. And essentially the battle plan for these guys is to take the hill, bring as many guys up into this area as possible to hold them off, and then in the latter stages start bringing on guys from the flank to try to flank the Albans. The Albans, for their part, are going to be very conservative. They're going to try to bring on as much infantry as possible. And one thing I should point out, I ran out of figures. My collection just doesn't have enough grenadiers. So the guys in the dark blue, I got some cannons and I got some grenadiers in blue. They're filling in for the white uniformed Albans. It's the morning of the battle, and scouts went out and took a look at it. So there's 2 questions from a game perspective. Can you move across it, and can you shoot across it? So on a 1 or a 2, you can move across it like regular ground. On a 3 or a 4, you can move across it at half speed, and on a 5 or a 6, it is impassable. All right, you can't move across it. So then the question becomes, can you see and therefore shoot across it? Also, if you can see across it, you can issue orders. So if it blocks the line of sight, and this is a simple 50-50. So if it blocks the line of sight, your leader can't pass orders through the swamp. So on a 1, 2, or 3, it does block line of sight. It does not. So we have an interesting case here where you can't move across it. It basically gets handled the same way as the lake. You can shoot across it to your heart's content, but you can't move across it. So that changes the battle plan here for these guys. They're going to have to worry about fire pouring in at them from this direction. Maybe. If we look at the ranges on the guns in this game, really it's going to be that foot artillery that's over here if they can come up, but we've got a big threat here to deal with it. So I think that's going to be fairly safe. Anybody that wants to attack these guys is going to have to push them off the hill by going up the hill. That's not going to be easy. So with all that done, we turn to the first turn of the game. As I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to be doing a play-by-play of this one. For one thing, I had some sound issues. Man, if you thought the birds were bad before, whoo, brother. This will also allow us to get through about an hour of live play in 15 minutes. And in these early stages of the game, the Albans over there on the left are trying to bring in reinforcements, and they are just struggling. For their part, the Tenebrans are having a much easier time of things. They're able to bring in guys off that back line and just doing great. The other issue here is that I'm not great at Napoleonics. It's a new era to me. This rule set is new to me, and rather than have you bored to tears by my referring back to the rules and misadding a couple of modifiers here, modifiers there, hey, there's no modifiers that can help Snake Eyes when you're trying to bring on reinforcements. Sorry, White Queen. What I can do is at least give you an idea of what's going on as we walk through this battle. The Albans continue to struggle to bring on reinforcements, and they have decided, realizing, now, they played it smart. They waited to bring up as many reinforcements as they could before they assaulted that hill. The only way they're going to be able to get through this battle is by taking that hill. And to do that, they're going to have to... Now, the one mistake they might have made is there's a couple of cannons in that farm we talked about. And those cannons, all they did was secure that left flank for the Albans. They made sure that Nobody could come through the woods, that the Tenebrans didn't come down off that hill, but time was really on the Tenebrans' side. And the first mistake might have been not to go ahead and bring those cannons up. Remember, the Albans have 6 more cannons waiting in the wings. Bring those 2 up, fire off as many volleys as you can, soften up the boys on top of that hill. As it is, the range there is about 9 inches, and there's not a lot they can do. Sensing an opportunity here, so they just kind of hung out back there, not getting a whole lot done. Sensing an opportunity here, the Tenebrans decided, hey, let's go ahead and see if we can chase off the cannon and infantry that are over there on our left flank. So they bring in enough reinforcements. That's 1 infantry and 2 cavalry that you see down there. 2 heavy cavalry. So we're rolling for reinforcements, and of course we don't get a whole lot. So now we're going to turn to face, and we're going to battle for this flank, the left flank of the Tenebrans. And Mr. Hands here is talking as he goes. We're going to bring on some reinforcements here, and hey, we get 1 more. So now we've got basically a 2 to 3. We've got 3 cavalry and 1 infantry facing an infantry and a cannon. The other unit you see over there is a headquarters that's meant to bolster those infantry and make sure that that infantry can get off a couple of volleys before it all comes crashing home. And again, this is where my own inexperience comes to fore. The cavalry, heavy cavalry, have moved behind the skirmish there in order to ensure that that cannon didn't get a shot off at them. There's 1 more cavalry there that was not so lucky, but fortunately the cannon fire proved ineffective. So that resolves things down there. 1 more shot, and again, we're going to have to do the melee, which we got some modifiers wrong. We're going to do that again, and what we find at the end of the day, so a little +1 there, is that the Albans did not do so hot, and they wind up being pushed back into the headquarters. Now, here's a question for you. In the rules, it says if you're pushed back, if you're disrupted, and there's an enemy unit behind you, you're destroyed. So they turn around, they move the 3 inches. Oh, they ran into the headquarters. Now, should a unit be destroyed when it runs into a mirror headquarters? I don't know. But what I do know is that their follow-up move leaves this infantry just a whisker short of being able to overrun that headquarters as well. And this melee occurring on the Tenebrans' turn means that headquarters with a movement of 6 is able to flee. As a war game, remember that the discrete moments that we see are an abstraction, and essentially what happened is, seeing which way the wind is blowing, that headquarters was able to get out of Dodge in plenty of time. That leaves the cannons over there badly exposed and badly outnumbered. On the other hand, the cavalry there, only 1 of them is going to be able to get stuck in. Is that what we're looking at here? The first one is able to move in. They do have that 1 last move, so we can bring the infantry. Now, that infantry hadn't shot. It was a melee, so they're still capable of doing that. Man, 2 to 1, the cavalry is just going to chew up. What you see there on the kind of right-hand side, or the Tenebran center, is a headquarters trying to run over to lend some support so that they can really start rolling up this flank. The Albans, for their part, have slowly and methodically moved more and more infantry into position between Lake Sambee and that farm. Of course, the fight here does not go well, and that's 2 units removed. But here things get a little interesting. That heavy cavalry has a mandatory follow-up move. Their charge carried them through the position. And over here, where they're left a little bit exposed, we advance the turn counter. And I might have forgotten that once or twice in the game. Not a big deal. There's no time limit on this one. I figured about 12 turns would do it. Hey, that cavalry says, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and keep on running up, and here they get themselves into a little bit of trouble. They are supported, but as you'll see, this is, again, the inexperience of the player who decided to bring his cavalry to a musket fight, which was not the best of plans. We're on turn 8 now, and here's where the psychological starts to impact things. The Albans probably could have secured the area just to the right of Lake Denby. They probably could have thrown a couple of units over there to hold up these flankers. Instead, they got caught a little out of position, as you'll see here in a little bit. And they started bringing on, really the big mistake was bringing that rally point over. We advance here through their movement. That reinforcement point over there by the heavy woods on the top side of the screen really bottled them up. You know, they've really been bottled up here. The only front that they have to attack is where that hill is. The roll for those swamps means that they can only go over the hill, and that's not going to be easy. The reinforcements that come on from the top are also bottled up between the forest and the farm, and here we get into the situation where the light infantry that you see in that heavy woods, they can't really do much, but they can't be turned out. So they serve as really more of a what would you call it, a psychological factor up there. They make that Alban left feel a lot less secure than it really is. And here we begin to roll up. There's a pushback there. The Albans on the left-hand side of the screen have fired ineffectively, and now they're locked horns with another infantry unit. And that might actually be, I can't recall off the top of my head, that might be a grenadier unit. So they definitely have the advantage. Things are looking really good. The noose is tightening up on the Albans. But the outcome of this battle still hangs in doubt. Remember that the Albans now are looking at about a 7-3 advantage. If they can weather a couple of volleys of the cannons on that hill and get stuck in and push back a couple of guys, then they have a chance to punch through and really just smash through. They've got the numerical advantage. If the dice go their way, they can still win this. So slow but steady wins the race. We'll see if it wins the battle here momentarily. Once again, they might have been better off bringing those cannons out of the farm, and if they had done some disruptions and driven off a couple of even just one of those units up top would have had a bit of a cascading effect as the units in the back were forced to fall back as well. But we'll have to see if that happens. You know, more pressure there on the Alban left, on the left, or Alban right rather, on our left-hand side of the screen. You've got a disrupted unit. They are as good as gone. And, oh, hey, we've got a big roll here. So there's your first cannon fire that is just devastating. That one did not go their way. Now, the cannon over there behind the swamp is relatively protected, but in this rule set, you've got a 3-inch range beyond which cannons are either really good or not so much. Within 3 inches, they get a bonus. They're very tough. From 3 to 8 inches, not so much. You know, a couple of lucky shots, maybe. So that cannon behind the swamp is really just kind of there for a few lucky shots, if they can get them off. And as you can see, that first shot was not so lucky. This battle over here is very interesting because it goes against that Alban unit. Is that what we're looking at here, Mr. Hands? We need some help. When you see me pointing fingers up and down, that's bonuses and failures. There you go. There's the big roll right there. That is, that 6 was the rally roll, which removed the disrupted marker. Because there is a leader within 6 inches, they're able to do that. That 6 versus 2 means rut-row raggy for the Tenebrans. That is a fairly big win for them on their right-hand flank. And now it's their turn, so that unit is pinned. They should not have been able to do that. They should have rolled to remove that pin marker, which is the little white smoke, before moving. I don't know, maybe the 6 that we rolled for the rally would have removed it all. I'll have to go back and double-check those rules. Here comes some reinforcements. And again, with that flank disrupted, with it falling apart, you get into the psychological battle on the part of the player. And this is where the mistake was mine, that the Albans really should have just thrown everything at that hilltop. That might have gone better for them. We're on turn 8, and things are rapidly coming to a close. They're coming to a head. The Albans have finally launched their assault and brought up even some reinforcements. Here's a little bit of dance around either side. There's going to be a cannon shot over here, and it has no effect. The Albans did manage to bring up that one cannon to try and secure something, but a 1 is just not going to do it. Here we have another melee kind of in the rear, and again, when you've got cavalry roaming around in your rear, hey, there you go. That cavalry puts paid to I don't know, whoever that was they were fighting. I can't recall off the top of my head. But now you've got cavalry roaming around in the backfield. That's rough, man, because that means you're looking at possibly having them show up just as your boys on the front line are beginning their massive assault on the hill. And moving along the road means they're going to move pretty quick. We'll change our mind. You know what? Let's go ahead and bring them up here. That unit with a white marker is pinned. They can't move. They're not going to take any other further part in the battle. The leader is gone. There's no way they can rally. So now it's time to get stuck in. And things are really going to start happening. Our first gunshot off the top of the hill disrupts that Alban unit. We're checking range, and everybody's a little bit too far out of range, except for this cannon. We'll take another shot with him. As always, the yellow die is for just random rolls, and whenever we do actual melee battles, we're going to have white dice and black dice so you can see who's who. Again, the Albans are in the white, the Tenebrans are in the black. That cannon fire does absolutely nothing, but it was worth a shot. We're going to take a look now at this other battle, black versus white, and you're looking at basically a +2 for the guys on top of the hill. That might even be Grenadiers, which I think it's +1 for on top of the hill. And that's it. This might be an even roll with So beating them by 2 means that didn't go. If you'd won that, if you'd even just disrupted them and been able to charge down in there, the Albans would be in much better shape. The disrupted unit is not going to be able to move just yet. Things move over to the Tenebrans, and they are cagey. They're not dumb enough to come off that hill and engage in a bunch of melee attacks. They content to just let the Albans come to them. They've got units over here on the periphery that are moving into position, circling around. A lot of cavalry back there ready to start hammering. And essentially what you want to do in this game is you disrupt a unit with your infantry, and then when you drive the cavalry home, then it's all over. The light cavalry, heavy cavalry, doesn't really matter. If you've got heavy cavalry on a disrupted infantry unit, that unit is as good as gone. There's no kind of shuffling around in the backfield, just kind of making sure that things won't completely fall apart. Again, there's no real gunfire to be had on that side. The Albans have decided, rather than shooting a bunch of volleys and winding up pinned down there, they're just going to wait and charge into melee in the next turn. The 6 there is a cannon shot, which takes out a unit over there, I believe. Bringing up some more reinforcements off of that flank unit. We've got a couple of Grenadier units that are ready to move into position. And we're on, turn number 9. And I can tell you that things are rapidly coming to a head. So here you go. Here's a problem. This is not good. Well, you've got 3 one-on-one melees now for the Albans, and a couple of units trying to secure the flank. Cannon fire goes, and it doesn't do anything. The other cannon doesn't do anything either. So we're still down to what's going to happen with these 3 melees. If the Albans can pick up a string of successes here, the odds are not great, but if they can win this one, and a 1 and a 5 ain't going to do it, brother. So that unit goes bye-bye. And that's a mandatory follow-up now, which doesn't quite bring them into contact. The second one is a tie, and here we have a 6-on-4. That difference of 2. We're going to roll. If it's a 1 or a 2, this unit is destroyed. They are not destroyed, but they are disrupted. They move back off the hill, and the Tenebrans have the option now. And here again, 5-on-2. That's going to become a 6-on-2. That unit is destroyed with a mandatory follow-up. So the line is starting to crumble for the Tenebrans, but that's just because the guys that they're fighting are falling apart. So we're going to advance to turn 10 and work our way through one more turn. It's a long shot, but there's still a shot. We get some more reinforcements. Of course, we get more reinforcements for the Tenebrans. The general here is really on the ball. General Lackey has put together a solid plan. And here we go. Double teaming a couple of units there, a couple of cavalry units. Gonna really just kind of roll up that Alban right flank. More reinforcements running in to fill in the gaps there in the backfield. And this is all just playing out the course of the day. If this was a tabletop battle with no greater ramifications, we would have called it quits at this point, because it's obvious the Tenebrans have won. But because we're playing a campaign game, we got to know who ended this battle disrupted and who ended this battle completely destroyed. We might have been better off playing out a couple more turns to see how many units the Albans could get off the board. But as it was, the hour was growing late in meat space, and that is a consideration for what goes on the table space. We get a couple of more attacks in here, a couple more units pulled off the board, and it just becomes a bloodbath. The Butcher's Bill is not going to be light on this one, and we'll go through that whole process in another video. But remember that from the campaign perspective, this is only half the battle. Well, I mean, this is a full battle, but there's another battle taking place 2 days after this one, about 120 miles south on the coast. And we need to play through that battle, and I think maybe what we'll do is after that battle is over, we'll come back and we'll put together the Butcher's Bill for both of these and see what the results of these two battles are and how they affect the campaign. We'll also need to go over what happens with the retreat of the Albans. We'll take a look at how many cavalry they have. The two big losses on the part of the Tenebrans here are the flower of the Tenebran nobility. Both of their heavy cavalry were destroyed in this outing. They were over there on that Tenebran left flank, and they came on early, and they did some devastation, but they got stuck in. They had some follow-up moves that got them in trouble, and they got wiped out. Those are the only heavy cavalry on either side. And here we go at the 11th hour, at the 5.5 hour. This battle's been raging for 5.5 hours, 2x2 Napoleonics. Each turn is about a half an hour. Finally, the Albans have sounded retreat, and they've begun to make their way back down that road and back towards their own country. So again, we're going to take a look at how many captured there were, how many wounded there were, how many were fallen on the field of battle, how many were still fighting trim, and what kind of cavalry screen they might have had as they retreated. Likewise, we'll take a look at what kind of cavalry the Albans had. It's probably going to be, and we'll put some more weight on the heavy cavalry. They'll chase off the light cavalry. And, I don't remember. That's why I said we'll look it up. If the Albans have heavy cavalry, that will negate a light cavalry advantage. If the Tenebrans don't have a lot of light cavalry, they may be forced to watch as the remnants of this army make their way to safety. And with that, we're gonna draw a curtain over the scene. The camp followers have now taken over the field. They share it with the crows and with the porters and the hospitals and the hospital porters, the guys that go recover the wounded, the buddies that stagger back to the hospitals on either side. This is a black powder era, so there is some black powder era battle. So there is some code of honor and chivalry that still remains. We may even allow a honorable retreat in order to save the lives of some of the brave souls on both sides who fought so well and so honorably on the field of battle today, and to whom we owe our respect and to whom we owe honor. So look for those videos coming up in a few days, the next 4, 5, 6, 8, next week or so. Until then, remember, guys, I'm praying for you.